Oh, excuse me. I had to sneeze. I am so sorry. So that's the word of the month. And, we have a big goal in Wyoming, and that is that every person who works in a Wyoming nursing home actually receives training on culture change. That is the idea of these free webinars. So please pass along the recordings and help us meet that big goal. Our second big goal is that ideally everyone who lives in a Wyoming nursing home doesn't get woken up during the night or in the morning, because we figured out how to honor sleep and honor restorative sleep. Restorative sleep is actually where you get at least 4 hours of sleep, because that is where we go into REM sleep or dream sleep, and our bodies heal. And here we are, a healthcare facility, right? And yet we're not giving the health that sleep offers. And by the way, that's our topic next month, if you'd like to join us. Yes, it is. I believe we'll get there in the next a slide or two. We're also learning how to individualize instead of use the generic practices of checking and changing people every 2 hours. You might need to be checked and changed more often, and I might need less, or vice versa. Also, people are learning that the longer wear incontinence products are very, very helpful in this quest. By the way, I don't work for them, but the Prevail item tends to really, really work for people. How do I know? We have a team in Wyoming who actually tried them. Yes, the staff tried the incontinence product, and they're glad they did, because they found out they worked beautifully. They could feel nothing wet, nothing slippery, nothing cold. Isn't that great? And that helped them to stop waking people up during the night and to help people be more well rested. Isn't that wonderful? So please help us with this as well. And then, if you didn't know, in this project, we have created 5 1-hour videos, 60-minute videos. One is Star Valley in Afton, and one is Life Care Center of Casper. A third one is Westward Heights. A fourth is Mission at Castle Rock, and Morning Star. So Mission and Morning Star are Eden alternative homes for about 8 years each, have beautiful things happening in their culture. And then the other 3 got to be a part of the Culture Change Project. Westward Heights, I highly recommend watching it, mostly because they were able to establish a lot of amazing outcomes. In fact, since the video, they told us they have no job openings. Isn't that amazing? So those videos are on YouTube, and I would actually invite you to watch them maybe at home with your family, if I may be so bold. Why? Because we need people of all ages to know that life in a nursing home could be fantastic, and working in a nursing home can be fantastic. So our next monthly learning is actually the community meetings. I sometimes call them community gatherings. Then the next one in February is honoring sleep. And the last one will be hearing from the 5 homes that have been working to change culture. And Kate, are you on the line by chance? Kate?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, Kate, bless you. Hi.
Hi.
Yay. Okay. Kate, we did it. Let's see. I want to finish and give you the floor. Kate Craig is the administrator at Legacy Home in Gillette, Wyoming. She is a sister in all of this. And Kate, I had email trouble today, of all days, and so I apologize.
No, that's okay.
You and I are the only ones, but people might listen to the recording. And I've asked Kate to speak to both the Learning Circle, but also to another artifact. Then I'll stop talking. It's all you, Kate. Artifact 109 is very interesting. It's called Leadership Team Members Have an Ongoing Process to identify and remove barriers to culture change and getting to that resident directed life within, yes, language, but also policies and job descriptions and system changes. And Kate and her team actually picked that. Isn't that cool? So Kate, you guys really stand out for choosing some different, you can't touch them, right? It's not like
Right.
open dining and there's a sign, the dining times. So I've invited Kate to tell us more about learning circles and how they blend into this new ongoing process. And then tell us your thing about This Is Us. When you get there, you have the rest of the time, about 15 minutes. Okay, Kate?
Okay.
Thank you.
So sorry it took me so long to get on, but I'm glad I was able to do that. And I'm trying to hold my phone very still.
Okay.
But hopefully it'll be just fine. So I think I'll start with the artifacts then. 109, the reason why I chose that, my background, my original degree plan was actually anthropology, and not the dig up the bones anthropology, but people and how they interact and the the continuum of health and sickness in context of groups and community and society. It's a high interest of mine from actually a young age. So when I looked at 109, that to me was the foundational one. Now, it's not exciting. It's not easy. It seems like it's dry. In fact, my team really at first couldn't get past the policy and procedure part of it. But the important thing about that artifact isn't the policy and the procedure. It is the underlying system. So, we can do our we can change vocabulary, we can change some dining practices, we can pick any one of any of those artifacts, and they're all wonderful. But if the system isn't undergirding it, if we're not looking at the system that's feeding those things, then we have reduced this down to a project. And projects have to be maintained. Projects have to be disciplined. Projects have to get dry education. I mean, projects are not the way that we make our work meaningful. And let's be honest, in the pandemic, nursing homes were already hard. And now we are, we're compromised in a lot of ways. And I forget who said it, but it was essentially in unprecedented circumstances, we have to do unprecedented things. And that's what's, for all of us who are administrators, that's where we're at, right? We have to start thinking of things to do completely differently. And the hard part about it is it's different. We've not done it before, so it's not going to be on our radar. I can't make Legacy successful. I want to be able to, in 20 years, I want to be able to welcome into our home the children of our current residents now, should they need us. And I can't do that the way things are going right now. I depend on culture change. I depend on culture change within the way we do our day-to-day work. I depend on culture change all the way up to the national level. I can't control that one, but I can influence Legacy. So when I think of a system that's undergirding how we do things, and that's what 109 says, is that you have a lifestyle that births ways of doing things that support who you are, that testify to who you are. That's what that is. So your system really needs to be an identity. And I've been pushing my team, and it's been hard. If we're going to follow Carmen's very important admonition to not make this a project, then what are we doing? Because we're project based in how we look at things, right? Regulatory structures kind of propagate that, whether they mean to or not. But if we're changing vocabulary, are we changing the word, or are we changing our approach to that item? Because if I can change the name of my employees, but if everything is staying the same, and if I still look at them as faceless workhorses or whatever it is, then it doesn't matter what I call them. My identity underneath has to be driven by a genuine desire that Legacy is a great place to work because we're good to each other. And we have innovative and dedicated ways to take care of the people who have come to live with us. So with every conversation that I've been a part of in this, is I have pushed and pushed back to the who are we? So when we look at our policy or a procedure or how we're doing education or whatever it may be, then what is it actually saying about us? We can get excited about our vision, but then the next step is to look at our vision and then compare it to our behaviors and see where we're actually at. And those can be some ouchy moments. That's when we have to be accountable as a group of leaders to say, you know what, I've got a bad attitude about this, or I feel like it's not worth doing, or I don't want to do the education differently because it's easier to do the PowerPoints and get that out to everybody and we can check the box. Um, Doing things differently initially takes a lot of work, and but you get past that. So when I learned to drive a car, I knew every stop sign. I mean, I there was a lot of mental energy in it. Now, good or bad, I can go home, I can pick up kids, I can go to the grocery store, I can do all of that and have no clue as to what's happening on the road because it is such a familiar practice to me now. It is just the way I do that. So if they put the steering wheel on the other side of the car, it's going to take a lot of mental energy again because it's changed, but then I'll get used to it. So in order to really make the effective changes that feel like a lot of work, we have to look at who we are first and what our policies and procedures and how we talk to our families and our residents and how we communicate and how we do resident council and any myriad of things. How are we actually doing it? What is our approach? And what does that say about who we actually are? And then from there, we can compare that to the vision we agree on and begin to make the changes within the system that need to be changed. So I hope that makes sense. Um, a really, the example that I have for the learning circles ties into this beautifully. And we had a pretty powerful experience with it, actually, with Carmen's help. It had been something I had been advocating for a while, and it was, people weren't really grabbing hold of it. I don't know if it sounded, it sounds elementary, it sounds too simplistic, it sounds not like a professional way of doing things, but I promise you it is a game changer. And there are so many flavors to this thing that you can do. You can do learning circle with all your new hires. So at 30 days, do a learning circle with them. It's interdisciplinary. How did it go? What we told you in the interview, were we lying or did we tell you the truth? Do another one at 6 months, do one at a year. What would you have done differently? What do you wish that would have been in your orientation now that you've got 12 months in? You can do a learning circle with, your staff department meetings. You can do a learning circle with your brainstorming and trying to do things. And that's where we were at. So I got in a situation where I quite simply did not have enough nutrition staff. We had had multiple openings for a long time. We had been advertising in all kinds of different areas. We were hiring or not hiring, but we were calling for interviews and people weren't showing up because they just needed to document that they had been asked for an interview to keep their welfare. They didn't have to show up for it. So I'm having a horrible time trying to, the nutrition staff is so overworked that the turnover was 100%. We had a toxic manager that was gone, a new manager that was coming in, an overworked department. So when people were hired and came in, they got burned out or jaded pretty quickly because the department itself was not healthy. All of that has been, it's my healthiest department now in a matter of a few short months. I have a wonderful leader over that. But I got to a point on a Friday that we were not going to be able to have the staff to feed the residents by Monday. My building is big and it's got 5 dining areas, and that is a staffing nightmare right now. We had a survey and we had non-compliance in our dining experience, the service that we were providing, with recommendations that nursing be involved. And nursing in our building historically had never been involved with the nutrition services. So on that Friday, I had a choice to make. I either wait till Monday and then surprise everybody, nursing's going to have to help right now, or I can make the change right now. It was 11 o'clock in the morning and we start now. We only needed to do it on one neighborhood, get nursing involved, and we have nutrition through the weekend to help train them. And I came up for every meal. The director came up for every meal. Well, that went through nutrition was pleased they were going to get the help, but everybody else panicked because that was not something nursing had been involved in. And long story short, people gathered around it. They understood the need, but it caused a lot of tension. It caused a lot of conflict. It exposed a lot of those things that we believe about each other. Even though we can get along and work, we still have nursing's like this, or nutrition's like that, or housekeeping's like whatever. All of those things that had always been there suddenly were more overt. And everybody was doing what they needed to do, but they were white knuckling it. They were not in agreement with it. They didn't understand it. They were being faced with their own barriers, our barriers as a group. And so it was getting pretty intense. And so before one of our sessions with Carmen, I contacted her, and it was like 11th hour right before, and asked her if she could help with this, because it was dismantling us. And so she led us through a learning circle, and I noticed, I know my team pretty well, and there was some tension, but everybody followed through. When I did kind of an after action on that, a couple of things just were so impressive to me. One, team members were saying that was the best thing that we've done, and we need to do it more. They made comments like, I felt like I was finally heard because everybody had to listen. I was able to finish what I was trying to say. I was able to speak without being interrupted. I was able to express what I really feel about this. I was able to express my frustration, and I felt calmer afterwards. I mean, it was an intervention above any intervention I'd ever had. And the other part that occurred is, because whatever magic occurs in that, and people began to feel heard and respected, and the light bulb started going on because one leader is talking about what they face in their department, and another leader didn't realize that. It didn't occur to us. You don't know what you don't know. And so solutions started coming forth. And we, by the end of that day, had solutions and more engagement around it. And that continued. Nothing is perfect, and it still comes down to where are the staff. But for me to lead Legacy into an era that I have another generation of residents coming in, which is what rural communities deserve to have, then I have to do it differently. I have to, instead of looking at all the people that are not applying for the jobs, I have to look at who's already here. Can I solve the workforce crisis by who is already employed in the workforce? And doing that changes things drastically, and that offends people or scares people or worries people or whatever. But putting those learning circles in with a group of professionals and giving them the chance to open up about what they really think about it, be able to see what other people think about things, and you start making these connections of, oh, well, they're missing this important piece of information. They need to understand this about me, or I didn't understand that about them. Or there's just something about when a group gets together and can calmly look at a problem, then all the solutions that were laying there the whole time suddenly can be seen because the anxiety level just went down. So that's my sermon on the learning circle. I mean, it was just, it's a powerful tool. I'm fairly familiar with it. It was the first webinar I watched of Carmen's, and my team knows I've been talking about it ever since. And I was, I'm still working on getting some systems in place for the learning circle as a way of lifestyle for us. But you can't dissuade me. You can't dissuade me from doing a learning circle.
Cool. And Kate, isn't it true that what we did that day happened to be what is going well with this change and what could be better?
Yes.
Help me remember. And I think
Yes.
it was a nice balance, right?
It really was. And it was kind of funny to watch some of the team members that I knew were really upset, and for them to be forced to look at what is going well. It was an interesting dynamic shift that they needed, but they weren't prepared for. If you are working in a nursing home today, you've done it. We've gotten through whatever chaos the initial year of the pandemic was. It's still hard. We've tested all our employees. We've told families no. We've told residents no. We've had to institute rules that don't make sense. So we have a long history already, a robust history, a rich history of doing impossible things. And if you're listening to this, you did it. You have successfully gotten through every bad day you've ever had. And so, that's the kind of story, that's the narrative that we need to be telling. And so by Carmen opening up with what is going well with this, and that was the rule for the conversation. It wasn't a free for all. That was what people needed to speak to. And once people started giving voice to those things, remembrance started coming forth. We actually can do things, and we can do them as a team. We've done plenty of things as a team, and we can do this again too. So it's really quite an experience. And I do wish that we could get more administrators participating with these calls and the concepts behind that, because this may sound dramatic, but I don't think they're going to survive in the industry without taking seriously some of these things that are not currently customary business, but they need to be a part of customary business.
Yeah. Well, I'm a believer of that statement. Yep. And the great news, everyone, is it costs no money. These are simple, doable, practical practices. All these years, Kate, I can't preach stuff that costs money. Nobody would listen. So
Right.
I boiled it all down to the things that cost no money. And look at the value. We just look at one today. Isn't that amazing?
That's exactly it. We've overcomplicated so many of these things, and there is so much that you can do. I know my time is at an end, but I will say this. I was a refugee nurse for years, and when you see somebody be operated on a broken door that's propped up on wooden crates, the door is your surgical table, and they have their abdominal surgery successfully without infection. Well, then you become a believer. We are overcomplicating things.
Oh,
It's not a back to basics mantra I have, but it is a do the basics better. Do the basics better. And the other stuff will grow. But do the basics better.
and that's what we're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kate. I'm so grateful it worked out. This was perfect.
Yeah.
Wow. I learned from you today, and I hope many others do. I'm sure they will. And so we'll close this Wyoming webinar for today. Thank you all, and thank you, Kate, so much. Take care.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.